Good afternoon. I am so honored to have the opportunity right now to introduce Beth Greenwood, the recipient of the 2018 Ernest R. Caverly Award. Thank you.
All right, settle down. That was really nice. I would like to start off by thanking Brian first, and I'd also really like to thank the Brookline Education Foundation for this lovely event and for all that they do to support teachers in this community. A few years ago, I was fortunate enough to be part of a grant from the BEF, and I'm sure that those of you who are receiving grants are feeling as excited as I was to pursue an opportunity that would otherwise be out of reach. Although to be fair, my grant involved taking workshops in New York to learn about teaching theater and then seeing Hamilton on Broadway. So, I mean, that was like a pretty high bar for excitement. So I grew up in a family where I was surrounded by teachers. My mother was a teacher, and my father was a teacher, and many of their friends were teachers. So it's probably not surprising that teaching had a pretty permanent place on my list of things that I wanted to do when I grew up. But if there was one thing that I kind of wondered about when I was considering teaching as a career, it was that teaching didn't seem to be particularly glamorous, not like theme park performer, which shot right to the top of my list after a very influential trip to Busch Gardens when I was in elementary school. I mean, yes, my parents and their friends, they all seemed happy and fulfilled by their jobs, but I probably should have mentioned that not only were they teachers, but they were like really good teachers. So they did all the things that really good teachers do, which as far as I could tell involved doing a lot of work. There was a lot of sitting at the kitchen table with binders, a lot of putting together kits of material, a lot of weekends spent ponding, which if you don't know, a science teacher means going to the pond and getting a bucket, and you fill it with stuff, and then like something interesting comes out. It seemed like a lot of effort, to be honest with you. Now, clearly, neither my sister nor I were too traumatized by this childhood, since both of us grew up to be teachers in Brookline. But as I was thinking about my journey through teaching so far, I found myself wondering, so what is it that teaching offers those of us who choose it as a profession? If it doesn't have the glamour of performing in a theme park, what are the benefits that we who choose to do it get to experience instead? Of course, I would say that teaching has all sorts of benefits, but there are three in particular that I want to talk about today. And these are three things that I've learned to love about teaching from my mentors and from my colleagues and from my students. Before I became a classroom teacher, I had lots and lots of jobs that led slowly up to that path: camp counselor, intern, apprentice, building sub. And I had a lot of mentors in each of those jobs. And there was one mentor in particular who really showed me that first benefit of teaching. I was an intern in her classroom in Connecticut right out of college, and she told me on the first day that my job for the first few weeks of school was to fall in love with our class. She said if I could find something that I really enjoyed about each of our students, it would make the rest of the year feel worthwhile. And by the end of that year, I was stunned at how much I actually knew about each of those kids. I knew little things like their favorite color and their favorite Pokemon, because this was a little while ago. And I knew big things too, like how they learned best and the things that they felt most confident about. And I think that it was then when it hit me that this job will never be boring. I mean, how could it be boring when every year you get a new set of students to puzzle through and a new group of people to learn absolutely everything about? And as if that weren't enough of a puzzle, this job can never be boring because there's always something new to learn about teaching. And of course, that's why my parents and their friends were spending so much time planning and learning and scooping up pond muck, because this job can never be boring. And that value of constantly learning something new is also exactly what the BEF supports here in Brookline. We have a job that you can spend your whole life learning how to do really well. And that is an amazing benefit to get from any job. Now, after all of that preparation, I was lucky enough to get to spend my first year of teaching in third grade in Lincoln School. And those of you who are teachers or who know teachers may remember what your first year is like. It is exhilarating and exciting and also totally terrifying, kind of like you're drowning and also everything is on fire at the same time. But fortunately for me, I had a team around me at Lincoln, an awesome grade level colleague, literacy specialists, math specialists, mentors, administrators, and they were all incredibly supportive. And they reminded me that actually everything was not on fire. And they also showed me one of the other great benefits of teaching. They showed me the power of the phrase, next time. You see, despite my best perfectionist efforts, it turned out that not everything was going to go perfectly the very first time I did it. But there was always a next time. So next time, I won't introduce a new unit right before lunch. Next time, I'm going to talk to that student just the way that other teacher did, because that is working a lot better than what I was doing. Oh, next time, pencils first, then Sharpies. And next time doesn't have to mean next year. It can be the next day, it can be the next period, it can be 30 seconds from now. And I think one of the reasons that I feel the power of that idea so strongly is that I work with colleagues who are always looking for a way that next time can be better. I cannot count the number of times that someone has walked into my room with a new picture book or a math game or a great website, and they say, "Hey, have you seen this?" And of course I go, "No, but I will definitely try that next time." I also get to see next time playing out in a really immediate way in one of my very favorite roles at the school, which is as the co-director of the middle school musical. Now, at the very beginning of the rehearsal process, we ask the kids to be sure that they always have their script and a pencil, and to be sure that their pencil has an eraser. And that is not because the directors are not prepared and haven't planned out exactly what we're going to have the actors do. If you look at our scripts, you will see all kinds of notes, pictures, little diagrams, there's arrows going everywhere. It's just that when we see the kids up on stage, so often we see that everything could be just a little bit better the next time we do it if we change something. So those two circles that are going around inside each other, like those look okay, but this time we're gonna try one big circle and it's gonna reverse direction in the middle of the song. Oh, no, that's terrible. That looks awful. Okay, new plan, 5 little circles. They're going counterclockwise and you all have to enter from the opposite sides. Okay, go. Giving kids that opportunity in a play to be even better versions of themselves next time, and giving ourselves as teachers that same opportunity is another huge benefit of this job, and it's one that I see playing out every day with my colleagues. Now, of course, along with my mentors and my colleagues, I also have the students to show me the benefits of teaching. And I think anyone who works with kids would say that we get all sorts of gifts from them. That gratifying feeling of watching them grow and the satisfaction of seeing something click for them, and all the cool stuff they found on the playground and they want you to hold for them. But there's a particular benefit that comes from the kids that to me is really unique to teaching. And it makes me think about a quote from Sandra Cisneros, and it's from her short story, 11. What they don't understand about birthdays, and what they never tell you, is that when you're 11, you're also 10 and 9 and 8 and 7 and 6 and 5 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. Because the way you grow old is kind of like an onion, or like the rings inside a tree trunk, or like my little wooden dolls that fit one inside the other each year inside the next one. That's how being 11 years old is. I think that teachers are uniquely able to understand that feeling, because when we teach, we get the opportunity to get back in touch with that part of ourselves that is 9 years old, or 5, or 17. And that's inside of us still, underneath all of those other ages. Now, that doesn't mean that we actually act on every 9-year-old impulse, because someone has to, plan the lessons and deliver the instruction. But it's still true that when you spend time with 9-year-olds, you get to re-experience so many of the best parts of what it was to be that age. I don't know too many adults who could respond instantly if you ask them to tell you the coolest fact that they know, but 9-year-olds can do that. If you go ahead and ask them about Komodo dragons, your mind will be blown. Most adults probably would not burst into spontaneous applause because the book order books are here, or start shouting protests because we had to stop a read aloud just when we were getting to the good part. But 9-year-olds will absolutely do that, and there is something incredible about getting to spend time with people who remind you what it was to be that age and to feel those things. That is a huge gift. So teaching, although it does not have the glamour of theme park performing, has a lot of benefits of its own. And those of us who teach have the opportunity to do a job that is endlessly interesting, a job where we get to constantly make our next effort even better than our first, and a job where we get to reconnect with the children that we were throughout our whole lives. I feel incredibly fortunate to do that job, and I feel incredibly fortunate to do it in this community with colleagues like you. Thank you very much.